Sean Perfetti, a friend of mine from BCP, had a mutual friend, or John, and he was going out to visit them. You go out there and they let you play with the dozer once in a while, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. And he said, hey, I got this customer just west of Peoria here. I'd like you to go. It'd be kind of fun to go meet him. So Kermit and I were able to go out there that day. What I didn't realize is that, you know, John had a 6N and a 6T, 09, his first new model was an 09's D6T, right? And he had a 6N, and a lot of you guys, especially in Grenoble, know that our air cleaner wasn't the best air cleaner on there. So the reason they invited me out there was to change out the air cleaner on that engine. It was like 95 degrees. I was wearing a white shirt and hot and sweaty, right? And John said, hey, get that air cleaner off there, right? And he said, don't break the damn thing, because I don't want Alt to have to pay Altor for it to come out here and fix what you broke. It was a piece of junk. So you'll see on our new D5, which is a replacement of D6N, an improvement there. But so I'm going to let, so first of all, John, his wife, Nikki, right, and CFO, I understand. You were checking the business balance account there the other day with, he's got a new dozer sitting in there. We also have Pete, their son, who's in the Air Force National Guard, so thanks for your service there. And his nephew, Caleb. Great story on Caleb. I've heard this. You once disappointed your uncle, right? That you didn't get as much done as you thought. So the next time John went out to visit that job site, because he runs a dozer, he's put about 4,000 hours on that D6T, right? John went out there to check on him 2 days later, because it snowed one day in November and you didn't get as much done or something like that. This was over lunch one time, right, John? And he goes out there 2 days later and the damn job's done, right? He goes, well, how did you get that done? Well, young Mr. Caleb spent 30 hours straight on the dozer because he didn't want to disappoint his uncle. I mean, that's the kind of effort you need to put into when you're growing a business like they are. So I'd also like to introduce Mike Wallace, sales manager at Altorfer, and Brian Gowdy, yep, is a salesman for John. So I'm going to let John come up here and talk about his business, and I already told him that, you know, all these people, there's going to be a lot of people in here, and we all work for you, right? They don't work for Mark over there. They don't work for me. They work for you on what we're doing. And he's going to talk about some of the sacrifice. I hope you go through that presentation, because I think it's some of the sacrifices they've made to grow their business and why.
I'm John, this is my wife, Nikki.
Come on up here. I think is there a camera on today?
I know.
We're supposed to stand around in this area. I didn't stay in Well, welcome. Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks, bud. We both grew up in Fulton County. I grew up out in the country, playing in the creeks all summer. When you're a kid, you dam up the creek. Then the sandbox. After high school, through high school, I worked at a camp up in Michigan, and I met a mechanic for a well drilling company. His wife ran the work program. So my first year out of high school, I worked for Farmer at Home, and then I ended up working for the well driller. So after that summer of camp, I moved into that tent in their backyard and started working for the well driller. I had no vehicle, no money for rent. So lived in the tent until his wife made me move into their pickup camper, which I lived in over the winter, and then I ended up getting a vehicle, and that spring I rented a house. And after about 3 years, my brother, we'd always cut and sold firewood. In 1989, he bought a 74 case backhoe for firewood cutting and work on his 15 acres. And then in 93, he bought a little case dozer. So when he bought the dozer, I moved back from Michigan and started helping him. And he wasn't busy all the time. So I would go back up to Michigan and drill wells for a couple weeks. He'd call me, I'd go back and work for him. I ended up drilling wells in the winter in Michigan for 4 or 5 years. And then, I think it was the summer of 95, fall of 95, we did a basement, and we were going back to a little town of Smithfield, right by where I live. And I saw this gorgeous young blonde out delivering papers. And I said to my brother, I said, who's that? He says, I don't know, find out. So you don't have to make too many calls in a town of 300 people to see who's delivering papers. So I called her up, and it turns out she'd actually been in my first wedding as a flower girl. So she was friends with my sister, and she'd stayed the night at our house when she was 12, but I didn't recognize her, but I hadn't seen her since then. So the flower girl story, my senior year at Adult Living, I was the groom, and they pulled her out of 7th grade to be the flower girl for our mock wedding. So we enjoyed telling the story of the flower girl in the first wedding. Yeah.
Everybody's jaws dropped. I
So-
can explain that.
So we got married in 96.
I didn't mention to the group that you got a great sense of humor. It's pretty dry, too.
Well, I was gonna tell you that I love to coyote hunt. I'm out all winter. That's why I let the hair grow. And if school teachers got their winters off, I would have been a school teacher. But bulldozer guys get some winter time off. But that's just a joke. I'd never be a school teacher. So we got married in 96, and I lived in a little shack. You got a picture of the
Yeah,
shack?
I was gonna say our first date was to a really pretty lookout spot that John took me to, overlooking the Spoon River, and I went home and told my best friend I'd probably never see him again.
I wasn't very impressive. That was my bachelor pad. The farmer had it on 500 acres, and I lived there rent-free until we shot some holes in the cattle tank on accident one night. Then I started, the rent went to $65 a month. And then he paid the electric bill, so I would do a hoe job or a dozer job, and then that would pay the year's electric and year's rent. And of course, she was in love, I guess, and agreed to marry me and live there.
I told him 3 years, so max 3 years.
So in the meantime, my brother got out of debt, wanted to get out of the business, so I ended up buying the old bulldozer and dump truck. And then we had that for a year or two. And then in 2001, I bought a tandem, triple axle tag trailer, and a used 315 excavator. And then that spring in 02, I bought a used D6M out of the Baltimore for rental fleet. And then I had to explain to my wife that, the bulldozer will buy a house, but the house isn't gonna pay for anything, so we ended up.
I think that's the quote of the day. A new house does not make dozer payments.
So we lived in the bachelor pad for 10 years. And about 3 years after we moved out, the roof fell in. The kids loved it, and they fed cattle out the back. And we always had coyote bait, and I had my spotlight where I could open the window and shoot coyotes out the window.
And we'd all have to go take cover in the bedroom.
Yeah, I'd put earmuffs on whoever was sleeping on the couch, the kids. But anyway, and then that was in 99, the well driller, a bunch of them went elk hunting. They asked me to come up for 3 weeks. So that was me a little later years. We were married, we went up and drilled some wells. So, and I had a neighbor who's a pretty big farmer, and he has some nephews that were farming, got into the tiling business. And they called me up one day wanting to know if I'd backfill with a little case dozer. And I told them I'd think about it. I finally agreed to. Well, through that I got a lot of exposure to the farmers that are spending money. And that's when we ended up getting the excavator and the bigger dozer. And then,
In the truck.
yeah, the dump truck. And then in 2009, I worked with an old guy working on levee who had a D7, like an E, with the SU blade, and I had the 6M. And he would always push just huge amounts of dirt, and that looked appealing. But the 6M, got the job done, but it's not like a 6T with an SU blade. So we ended up getting the new 6T. My farmer friends that tiled and their cousin, we went to Altorf and looked at it, and then we drove home. It's a pretty sad trip home. They're like, that's just too much, you can't do that. And I asked the salesman, he said, if I can't pay for it, we still get to keep our house, because we'd moved to a new house. He said, no, we'll just take the machine back. All right, let's do it.
You're talking about the T?
Yeah.
Is this next slide still got the end? Did we talk about the end?
Yeah, the M's, that was too far back, I can't remember a lot about it. But,
That was our first cat dozer,
well, we went from the 550 case to the M, so that was a pretty big jump.
and when we got the M, we added the M and we added a daughter to the family, still in the little house. And the boy right there on John's, that John's holding is right here, that's our son Peter. And so after 10 years of living in the old house, we moved, that's right after we moved in. The grass is funny in front because they'd had some sort of goldfish pond that we filled in, and grass was starting to go back over it, and then traded in the 315 for a 315 CL not long after that as well.
We needed air conditioning.
Yeah. We ended up having 3 kids in the old house, and then the day we closed on the new house, we went and got a pregnancy test, and it was positive, so number 4 was on the way. Everybody gave us a really hard time about that, saying we got too carried away with the celebrating for the new house after 10 years.
And the neat thing about the house we bought was it's on a piece of ground that I've known about ever since I was a kid. And it's down a dead-end road that's got a big bluff that overlooks the river. And the bluff that overlooks the river behind the house we bought is where we went on our first date. So that's kind of neat.
Well, and also John's brother that first kind of started the business way back that you mentioned working for, I think, because he went back and forth between working for his brother and well drilling, and his brother had the 550 case and the dump truck, and that we bought out. He wanted to sell out, so we bought that from him in '99. But anyway, he lost his wife suddenly, and he had 4 children. She was only 36, I believe, when she passed, and the house was also half mile from their family. So that worked out well to be able to have them over. So we had 3 kids at the time when we moved in, but we had 7 over, 7 kids were pretty much the norm, and one of those 4 is Caleb, who works for us today.
When we had the little case dozer, we had a little 5-yard Ashland scraper we pulled with the case dozer. And I remember Caleb being about 4 or 5 years old, and I pulled the case dozer and get the scraper back to the yard. He'd come out and he'd say, Uncle John, show me how that bulldozer hooks up, pulls that scraper. I thought that was neat. Then he went and worked for a farmer for 7 years, and then finally I got him. So he's a pretty priceless bulldozer operator. That's the new D6T on the right. That's at our house. They put the sweeps on it right after we got it. And then on the left, that is the T pushing next to the M. You can kind of see the difference. And that's actually working on the pond at our house. And then we ended up trading the M for a 6N because we wanted diff steer. That was a pretty tip machine. And then now we have just traded the N on the electric 6E, which is at the dealer, which we don't have yet. So, and the reason we did that is we get the T on levee jobs or pond jobs, and we end up not even using the N because the customer's like, well, that one's only pushing half what that one is, but it's $20 less an hour. It's just not enough of a dirt hog for the type of work we do.
You're getting paid by the hour.
Yes, we do everything by the hour, 95%. And our only hang-up is transport. It's going to be a little tougher moving the 6E around, but we have a permit for the T anyway, so we'll just have to put the flags and banners on. And we do end up doing a fair amount of 3 to 4 hour jobs, which was nice moving the air around, but we'll see how this goes. I have a farmer customer who got tired of waiting on me and bought our old 4H, and put about 10 hours on it this year. And he said I could come get it if I use a bulldozer. But he bought the dozer to get me there to do the job, and that worked for him. He could have just give me 30,000 extra, and I would have come quick too. Better off dozer.
So yeah, some of these are showing some of the work that you do. And first time I came out there, that 6N was pulling that pan and that really dusty lower where that levee had broken down there.
Yeah, that was cleaning up sand in the river, between the river bottom after the levee break. And then the one on the left is we're starting a pond, and the bottom was clear full of silt, 10 foot of, I think there was an old dam below, so it filled in a lot. So we ended up benching, taking our old, sorry, but we have an old link belt long reach. So we dipped the mud out, set it up high above us, and then we started building up. And then as we got up to the mud, we'd pull it out, push it out the backside, let it dry, and use it for topsoil.
So you're moving a lot of dirt in some of these applications.
Yes. Well, this is all actually on a pond for Jim Tomey out by Ellisville. And we built that, I think that was 13, but it would rain every couple days. It was just terrible conditions. We'd go out and stand off the mud and start going.
So for a lot of you around the world, Jim Tomey is a famous Major League Baseball player from this area.
The next one.
John, maybe, hey John, maybe talk about the consultant that you had on that job that came out from Texas and kind of talked to Tommy over the phone. You guys had a conference call and he
Yeah,
kind of
well,
told you about he's got to dig until he finds good ground.
Yeah, when we dug some of the test holes on one of the banks where the dam was gonna go, there was a layer of sand. And I suggested he have a guy out of Texas come up who's a dirt moving consultant, kind of for a neutral party. And I don't know, there's a magazine called Pond Boss Magazine, and this guy out of Texas writes an article on dirt moving every month. And, most of it's ponds and repairing leaks and installing the pipe. But he came up and we had a good time looking it over and had lunch with Mr. Tomey at the cafe and so on.
Ready for the next slide?
Sure. Okay, yeah, I was trying to figure out where it was, but it said right on top. That's up at Henry. We kind of got hooked up with Herman Brothers Pond Management. They're out of Peoria, and they get calls from the area, people want ponds, so we end up kind of going out of our territory. But we went up to Henry and built this one, and the Olympics were on. We stayed at the little Henry Hotel on the river and watched the Olympics every night and having fun. So it was kind of fun. Okay, yeah, this is what we did this summer, spring, I think it was June.
So on that one there, John, just some context with 474 and
Yeah,
74 and
right,
Route 6. You could see the red triangle. Just to give you some context, the owner's property actually is right up against 74. From there to the proving ground, or from there to Edwards is probably a mile, I guess.
Yeah, on the bottom left, you can see the red line on the left side. That's the base of an oak tree. And then on the finished product, you see how much dirt we brought up. And then this one was somewhat questionable on watershed. It was a little shy on watershed, but it had some pretty good springs. They had an 8-inch rain. I haven't been there since the rain. I'm almost afraid to look. I don't know if this.
But they haven't called, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, we often get into, well, who's doing slot dozing with the D6 anymore and that, and I think that top left corner answers that question.
Yeah, Caleb doesn't like the sun shining in his windows, so he'll try to get it down with the shade of the swab. And then same thing, there's the end. Normally we would pull a pan with that, but the push was just close enough. The end was kind of handy with the pan. We could get the faraway dirt show up at where we're spreading it with just as much dirt as the teeth for about the same money. Well, like you say, that one was a little closer push. But, when the T and the N run together, you know, the guy running the N is just, he was wanting a bigger machine, so looked like he's getting more done. Our T, we're at about 11,400 hours.
200.
11,200. And I asked one of Wes's guys a few months ago, are we gonna do a certified rebuild on that T? Or are we gonna wanna trade it in for an electric one? He says, talk to me in a year after you run the electric one for a year. So, what do you think, Wes? What will we end up doing?
What did you end up doing?
What will we? Will we do a certified rebuild on the T, or will we want another electric in the SU?
I'll let you, I can't fill that in. You know, you gotta answer that question, but just so you know, John and Nikki you purchased 3 brand new machines this year with that D6XE being one of them. That's a pretty incredible, you know, you see he's got the 3 excavators, the 2 dozers, the link belt, long reach, and an MTL. So you're replacing nearly half the fleet in 1 year. That's a pretty big outlay. That's how much trust that he's got in us to buy that new D6, so we gotta deliver. So I think you'll like it. I think you're gonna love it for everything you can. You know, when we have a lunch, or one day I left the D8 meeting, we go have lunch with Kermit, and I went down there. That's when Brian was there, and we talked through with all of you had a lot of questions, because John's been asking me for years, what are you gonna do? What are you doing? What are you working on?
Well, I knew that the electric high drive was coming, but Wes was getting tighter and tighter on information. We demoed a electric 7 probably 5 years ago, and I liked everything about it except the steps backwards, the low drive. I didn't like the single cylinder. If you're dressing up to the timber, you would run into a tree this big because it was a permanent blind spot. You know, where the side cylinders, you got a blind spot until you drive 5 feet, then you can see whatever was behind it.
You're really gonna like this new machine. He's buying the VPAP on the D6 away from the SU.
Oh, I guess that's another. But the same one, yeah, okay. There's John by the D6.
They were using the 299 to build fence. So, of course, that's the new D6 at the dealer. That's the service truck that I ordered. I wanted a 3/4 ton of drain, and the salesman said, you need something more than a 3/4, so we got a 350. And now I wish I would've got a 550. You know, when I ordered that truck, you know, the price tag just kept going up, and it seemed like a lot of money for a truck. And then I paid it off a year early, and then now I wish I would've spent another $20,000 and got a 550 with the diesel. So we kind of learned that you better just order what you need instead of what you can afford. I don't know, it always seems to work out.
So, you know, so now you got any questions for us? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people got questions for you on your operation and that, but it's a fantastic story. Thanks for sharing it.
I wanted to share that when we bought our house in 37 acres, that does right there is exactly double what our house in 37 acres cost. So it better be just about perfect. And if it's not, you'll know.
You've got my number, I know. And I'll come out and change the air filter too. But the good story on that air filter is, after we seen the application, we did find Bill Raidline helped us get a cyclone pre-cleaner on that, on 6N, and
yeah, we were running a scraper cleaning up sand and silt from the flood, and there were a lot of really fine, and we were plugging air filter on the dozer every 2 days. You have to blow it out and put in a new one. And then we got that cyclone air cleaner on top, and now they go forever, so.
Sometimes going to see an application for all you engineers is the best way to understand what's going on and how do you help the customers out of we didn't have a good situation on that.
And a lot of the reason we went with the 3 new machines this year is just downtime. You know, last fall, we had an excavator that had a few issues, and it was so wet Well, if it's broke down your 2 dry days, you had nothing. You know, and I told the salesman we were gonna declare war on downtime this year. And hopefully with the new machines that works. And then our dealers really good support. If we're in a pinch, they'll get us a machine out to use for a couple days while we broke down. And they really take pretty good care of us. A story about the little Case 550. Of course, we were doing the same work with it as we're doing the big stuff. And we were breaking the final drive studs, on final drives on. And the dealer kept giving us just new bolts, not sticking pins, and they break. And it just got out of warranty, and they come up with this dowel pin thing where they drill bigger holes and pinned it. And they said, go ahead and pay the bill. It's $2,500, which was an awful lot of money then. I remember borrowing $800 off her grandma to put rollers on that one. But they said, pay the bill, and the warranty guy will call you. Never have heard from the warranty guy. The Case salesman was after me a couple of years ago. I said, when I get a check for $2,500 from Case, maybe I'll have lunch with you. Until then, don't even bother. So, and I've been with Cat ever since. So,
We appreciate that.
so I guess I would say they really need you. Even the small guy, you know, you got to take care of everybody.
Absolutely, and so when you bought that new D6, what are you looking for? What are the 3 things when you say, hey, this is what I need that thing to do?
Well, what we're really interested in is getting the job done. And honestly, we're a little frustrated with some of the new stuff because it does so much. And we just want to go work, but I mean, that's just the times. This new 323 we have, I don't know, we're getting used to it. But a simple machine that's just a horse is nice, but I know that's in the past.
You're looking for,
Well, that's why we're going to the new machines that are under warranty. Because from our point of view, there's just so much more that can go wrong. And maybe it won't, but, you know, mice are an issue. A mouse gets in a machine, and there's $1,000 tracing down wire just in the repair. I don't know if you can make mouse-proof wiring. Because we're always parking them out in the cornfield, and you can leave them for 2 days and come back and the headliner's half full of corn. So, or whatever that's worth. We should have took a mouse slide.
okay, we got that on the requirement. 3 harnesses and headliners.
Well, I know downtime's a big deal, you know, he wants to be able to work as much as he can, and we had all these repairs this last year, so I think I know that machines are getting older, but he wanted to get new machines, and then we can hopefully run them and not have the repair bills in downtime.
How'd you decide on the XE for the new one?
I ran the 7, and our 6T was getting, I think it was actually a wiring issue fixed under warranty. And they brought out the 7 for a limiter for a week, or a demo or whatever. And we liked the pushing power, and the 7 was burning less fuel than our 6T did, and doing more work. So when they came out with the high drive, I'd been waiting for it a long time. I don't know what was it, 2 weeks after I had been on one that I signed the papers.
That's right.
So I was ready. And we love the high drive. It's so easy to clean tracks. When I got ready to take the 7 back, the stuff had dried in there. I didn't even get it cleaned out the shovel. I had to go get a power washer and literally spent 4 hours to clean tracks on it. And then the 7 had the big flat place in front of the sprocket. I called it the abrasive hopper. You know, and the high drives don't have that. Do you want System 1 feedback?
We got plenty of System 1 feedback, and I was out there, so you got a couple of tracks put back on there after a few too many early out things.
Our System 1 was failing in about 4,000 hours. It would be measured, it would be halfway through its life, and it would fail. So I printed off the System 1 brochure off the CAT website, highlighted the lower operating costs and extended life, gave it to the store manager, and he passed it on, and they took care of us. Dollars-wise, they made it where the System 1 went 8,000 hours like it.
So one of the several lunches, I brought a gentleman named Mr. Hazelbush, who's chief engineer of undercarriage, sit with John. We had a good conversation about the whole thing.
So our new has heavy duty, so we'll,
So yeah, so he's bought a XC with, well, you see it up there, 30-inch shoes, VPAT machine, so it's a departure from the SU, so the blade's not as big, right? But it's a lot more versatile for a lot, especially the side slope work. You got the sweeps on it and that, so one of the questions, I don't know if Moni is here, but the exhaust pipe standing straight up there was, you know, what do we do with the water in there?
I'm actually on the phone, but the water runs down.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit tough.
Hang on just a second. Try now.
Alrighty, how's that?
Better.
Yeah, the water actually, because the exhaust stack is separated from the engine, the SCR outlet that's below it, the water will actually run down the inside of the exhaust stack and dissipate outwards. So it doesn't actually get down into the after treatment. That's actually why the bends are in it, so that it can't go straight down and get into the after treatment. So it, yeah, looks a little unique, but that's why it's bent.
And we don't use the angled exhaust on the sweeps because it bounces off there, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
I guess.
Correct.
The bottom line on equipment is we want to wear it out. If we pay for it, we don't want it to fail.
Why you like that,
Yeah.
right? Now, you did have a failure at 9,000 some hours on an axle shaft that you asked if, where's my transmission or my drivetrain guys? There is one in here. He's more of a transmission guy, but I think that's being taken care of.
Yes,
You're worried
that's-
about early on that machine had the accumulator wasn't charged properly, and you thought the brakes were hitting.
The parking brake was setting up for a split second between shifts, and it wasn't doing it all the time. It was very difficult to get it to do it, and it took about a year to narrow it down, but we were running it, and that was 5 years before the axle broke, but when the axle broke, that's what got the blame. I mean, we were just pushing dirt. And as soon as the axle broke, I called and got the part number, and I asked Altor for how many they've sold, and I think the answer was 0, because they don't break, so.
Yeah.
I kind of built my case, and they accepted it.
Yeah, that got into us as well, so good feedback.
The little case dozer, literally at 2,500 hours, it was getting pretty wore out. I mean, the blade needed rebuilt, you know, just, so our T is, like I said, 11,200 hours. I've got a friend, Knox County, that has an R, it was 16,000 hours. So, you know, we're just not really afraid of the cat machines.
So when are you looking at rebuilding that thing? Is it burning oil or?
No, as far down the road as possible.
What-
Does anybody on the phone have any questions? Anybody in the room?
Well, yeah, Pierre from Grenoble, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
Can hear you.
Yeah, have they ever considered buying a track loader for that pond business?
A track loader?
Yeah, we don't track loaders too here.
We pretty much do all the loading with an excavator. I look at 953s, I don't know that we would use it that much. You can just do so much with an excavator and a dozer. If we did more residential basements than that, maybe a track loader could. I've only really got 2 good operators, and then another guy that drives the trucks. If better help was easier to find, I might expand a little bit.
So yeah, that's a good point. You've got yourself and you got Caleb and 2 other operators,
Yes,
right?
yes.
4-person team, and it keeps them busy.
What's that? Some of the time, I'll probably still prefer the T just 'cause I like the old controls, but, yeah.
So who gets the XE?
I wanna stay in the T.
Okay, well, you should try it though.
That was gonna be my
Why
question.
convince Uncle to buy 2 of them, right?
I was gonna ask Caleb how he liked the XE, but now I know the truth.
But I ran
so.
it, I like it, but I like the old style twist controls for the
Oh.
forward and reverse and that.
You're not the only one in this room.
With some of the operators that have been around a while, the change is really tough. I've got a guy that runs my 315, the dump truck, and he's 47, 48, and he wants nothing to do with grade control and that. It confuses him. So,
Well, we talk a lot about how these features gotta be easily running in the background and you don't know what's happening. You know, we got things on these like called slope assist that'll hold the grade and that, and we're trying to get that so you don't notice it behind there. The tractor that we have, not the electric, but the other one, the lockup clutch, is fully auto shift now, where you just put it in your top gear and you let it go. And because we hear from guys like you and customers all over the place, they just can't find good help. Nobody's growing up playing in the sandbox anymore, wanting to be a dozer operator. A show of hands just here in the room, how many played with the Tonka trucks and bulldozers in the sandbox? So, there's still a few of us out there, and but it's getting less and less all the time, so.
the big thing for us is we want the customer to be impressed with what we do. So, and they're not necessarily impressed with a lot of stuff that we're not using. And, you know, maybe in time we'll use it more.
So I think Sean said that you get a lot of referral jobs, and John's the kind of guy that doesn't wanna say no, right? So he goes out there. We even offered you a machine, cause we had some downtime here, and said, hey, why don't you run this machine for us, get some hours on it? He came back and said, I'm not sure I can promise you the hours, so I would give it to somebody else. And you know, that's the kind of customer he is, just honest, upfront, hardworking, and you get paid by good, honest days of work.
Yeah, in 20 years, we've never been shorted on a job. Every single customer's paid. We've never paid for advertising. It's all word of mouth. Locals. And then when Wes offered that dozer, I didn't think I had to work. Then we got on a job where I really wish we had it.
It was a 36-inch shoe, if I remember.
Yeah, that was
right.
that one down at Rushville. It was just, we got down into peanut butter. It was terrible.
Well, the other guy that did get it, he didn't get as many hours on it either, but he came in and talked to us as well not too many months ago, so it was all good.
But has he bought one?
I don't think he's bought one yet. I don't know, I could probably talk to Altor for, Salinger bought one yet? Bill, down there in Springfield?
Not sure.
He's got a few, though, he's got a
So
lot
he
of
let the
six,
wrong
he's got a
guy
lot of
have
ours.
it.
I gotta go visit him, all right? All right, I think we gotta probably let John, we got some other things for him to do here and see. While he's here, he's gonna run a new D7. He's already spotted, I walked him through the engineering area, and he spotted it on Casey's background, that the sprocket's back in the air, right? And I think he's gonna like that, so. Any closing thoughts, any other questions here? Or on the phone, anywhere around the world? Any closing thoughts on what else we can do to help you out? It's pretty impressive, honestly, everyone. Somebody like this with two dozers down and buying one of these brand new ones out of the chute, and just based on the reputation of our old machines and what he's heard, he's tried it out at Edwards. He didn't let me know he was trying it out at Edwards, or I would have tried to come out and visit, but I mean, this is a relationship business. Altorfer does a great job of taking care of John, and you see when he has a downtime, he's going there, but you know, getting to know a customer to this level, and you've seen some of the sacrifices like I talked about, that's pretty incredible what these two have done to build that business up, and it's very successful. Now he's got referrals coming to him all the time, so that's the kind of customer we want to get started with on the ground floor and help them build their operation. So I really do appreciate
Well,
it, John.
I gotta say, it's not easy. Last week she called, said we had $24 in business checking. and we got a $400,000 dozer sitting at the dealer, but we always seem to manage. So I will say our accounts receivable is in pretty good shape, we're just waiting on some money, so. I think if you took 5% off, we probably would be doing it, you know, off of what we make on the job, so. You guys just gotta do your best.
Well, like I said, all these people here and on the phone work for you, so we do appreciate it, and we don't make a paycheck. Altorfer doesn't make a paycheck. It wasn't for people like you. So John, Nikki, thanks a lot.